All right, my friends, Brian here with VetteSource. Welcome to another episode today where I figured what I'd do is continue talking a little bit about our C4 Corvette, the competition yellow LT4 that I've featured in a few other videos on the channel here. You can see the car sitting here if you've never seen it before. They don't worry about that. That's a big block for the other car. But anyway, this is our competition yellow LT4 that we kind of use as training mechanism for some of the other cars. So what I thought I'd talk to you guys today about was a curious feature on the later C4 Corvettes, specifically starting in 1993, which is known as the passive keyless entry system. Now, 93 was the first year when you bought your new Corvette. It came with two actual key fobs, right? Now, the aftermarket has supplied key fobs for cars for quite a long period of time, so at first glance, these did not look like anything new or anything different. It just like it was a highly stylized key fob for the Corvettes, where you've got obviously a button to unlock the door and a button for the hatch. But the difference with these is this is what's called a passive keyless entry. And the Corvette was the first automobile sold by General Motors back in 1993 to have this system. So let's kind of go over what's so special about this in the first place. So, you know, if you've looked at a remote control before, aftermarket specifically, you'll notice there's a tiny little circuit board inside of them. Now these are the two original passive keyless entries fobs to the 96 yellow LT4 Corvette here. But you can see they've gotten damaged over the years. Now, of course, this makes a perfect learning opportunity because you can see what these are in. And the reason why I'm going over this too is because a lot of these don't exist anymore. People don't transfer these with the new owners. So a lot of these get lost in time. So you can look and see this circuit board is actually a little more complex than what you'd expect to see inside a key fob. There's your two plungers there to depress and activate your door, your rear hatch. There's your battery, of course. But the thing that makes these unusual is that copper winding, right? Now that copper winding this is actually a transmitter. This is not simply just a key fob that you hit it and it sends a blind signal to the car and unlocks it. What this actually does is it actually tells the car, transmits a unique code to the car, and once the car recognizes the code, there's actually a receiver box inside the car buried up under the center of the dash, and once the car receives that matching code, it unlocks the door. Now the unique thing about them is there's two modes. You've got, okay, I open the door, but the whole part of the passive in this whole thing is that it's passive. So let me show you, for example, what happens. So when I take this key fob and I walk up to the car, I'm not touching it, right? Did you see how the door, or heard the click, how the door just unlocked on its own? The car will detect that you're coming close with the transmitter, and it matches the code against what's matched. If this is a matching transmitter, it unlocks the car. Then when I back away and put this back over here, and it honks the horn. So it locks the doors and it tells me the car is secured, which what it did with that horn beep was it just activated the universal theft deterrent system. So this is a pretty slick system that is very cool, and it works in conjunction with that UTD system I was just talking about. And it was the first thing. It's very common on cars nowadays, but again, General Motors and Corvette were kind of the originators of this system itself. So, you know, you've got this transmitter here, you've got the module buried in the dash, and then what it has in the door and in the rear compartment, it actually has two very big antennas that look exactly like this, with copper windings around what am I trying to say, a plastic rectangular piece. And what that does is it serves the antenna and it detects the transmitters coming into range. Now, once it actually does come into range, the transmitter sends out its digital identification code, and then it activates the system, right? And an operation code also. So it's unique to each transmitter that the PK receiver recognizes. And then if the code is recognized, the system turns off the UTD and then locks the doors. The other cool thing is if it's dark enough outside, it will actually turn on the interior lights once you're coming close to it. So it's really a cool system, but not many people see these very often. Now, also what'll happen as well is once it detects that this is coming closer, it's the PKE receiver that's in the car is always checking to see where the transmitter is and how to respond. And once you walk away from the vehicle, when it sees the transmitter, I'm trying to get this back on as I'm talking, guys. Once it sees the transmitter is out of range, that's when it automatically locks the doors and does its thing. Now the other thing too is when you set this down and don't touch it, sorry, I'm kind of out of range here. When you set this down and don't touch it, it actually goes into what's called sleep mode. And then as soon as I open it up, or as soon as I start moving it around, and again, I can move it back over to the car, up, and it goes, oh yeah, the transmitter's here. And you see it actually turned on the interior lights in the car as well. So then as soon as I go back away from it, it will supposedly lock the doors and arm the theft deterrent system. Now, you can use this in two different modes, okay? This actually has the passive mode, and it also has the manual mode. So if, I'll be honest with you, as cool as a little feature as this is, it's kind of a trick feature that surprises people, because the car is basically saying hello as you walk up to the car. It can get kind of annoying if you're in close proximity, you're working on the car. So, you know, if you're around the car moving with the keys in your pocket, it'll constantly unlock and lock and beep the horn at you. So what you can do is, once you walk up to the car, you can actually hit this door release button and hold it for 5 seconds, and it will turn it back into manual mode, right? So it will only unlock once you press that door button. So, cool little feature. What I'll do here in a second, just for grins, if you don't have your service manual, I'm gonna just read this through so you can see what it does. So General Motors actually spent, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, almost 5 pages describing this. So it basically tells you the PKE system allows you to lock and unlock your doors, trunk or hatch or disarm your theft deterrent system from 3 to 7 feet away. That's 1 to 2 meters when using a keychain transmitter. So what's funny is that it says they only come with 1 transmitter, but I remember specifically with the competition yellow car here, I remember when I sold that car new, I remember it had 2 of them, but I'll have to look into that more. So anyway, so what it does, it basically tells you it operates on a radio frequency subject to FCC rules, device complies with Part 15, blah, 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 blah. So what it does also, it tells you basic operation is you don't have to do anything for the PKE to work when your passive feature is on. Just move towards your vehicle with the PKE transmitter and the system will automatically disarm your theft deterrent system and unlock the doors. If it's dark enough outside, your interior lamps will come on. And this is straight from the owner's manual of the car. So you can see this is the original. I forgot that was in here. The flashlight doesn't work anymore. Yes, it came with a pin light flashlight in the original owner's manual. So if you move out of range, the PKE system locks the doors after 5 seconds, arms the UTD, and sounds a horn to let you know the doors are locked. And it turns off the interior lights. You can also use the button on the transmitter, press door to open the passenger's door or hatch to open the hatch. The hatch button will only work when the ignition is off. The system also has a feature, and this is another thing that modern cars have it, but we take it for granted. The system has a feature that makes it difficult for you to lock your keys in your vehicle. If you leave your keys in the ignition and lock the doors, the system will unlock the doors as soon as they are closed. All right, so what that basically means is that if you leave the keys in there, in the ignition and move away, the doors won't lock on you if you leave the transmitter in. Now there's also another curious feature to help you if you actually leave the transmitter in the car, but don't leave them in the ignition. So let me show you real quick how this system works. So I walk up to the car, I've got it unlocked. I'm gonna go ahead and put these in the seat. I'm gonna leave them right there. I'm gonna lock the door, and then I'm gonna walk away. Now you see I've locked myself out of the car effectively, right? Now what I've got to do is I've got to wait about 30 seconds or so till the transmitter actually goes into the sleep mode. So let's give it another 20 seconds, and then we'll show you what happens. And this is GM's technical term for getting back into the car if you accidentally leave these keys in the center console. Now, of course, we're used to nowadays in new cars, I think even, it doesn't matter where you leave the keys in them, they won't lock the car. In fact, I think my Suburban is the same way. So now that we've waited about 30 seconds, watch this trick. I just go and rock the car, supposedly. Okay. Let's try it from here. This is gonna be a massive fail, I can see. Of course, oh, there it goes. See how I just unlocked it? So what I did was I actually woke up the transmitter and it told the receiver to unlock the car. So it's actually pretty cool stuff. But like anything typical first year or first couple of years use, it's kind of a little complex. You get in the weeds on it. So that's how it was describing for you here. Is that, but it also gives you that warning. This system can't guarantee you'll never be locked out of your vehicle. If the battery's low or if the transmitter's in a place where the signal can't get to the J antenna, it won't unlock the door. So if I happen to leave this in the storage compartments behind the seat, I'm not getting back into the car because it won't probably move enough to get it out of there. So you can also set this so that you can unlock both the doors or just the driver's side, or you can turn the system off. So if you want to change the door settings, you just put the ignition key in the ignition, don't turn it on, then you press the door on the transmitter till the door locks, about 2 seconds. And then what it does, it basically changes it so that only one door will open, and then you cycle it through the other side one more time. If you press it and hold it again, it will actually make it so that both of them open up. Now this car is set right now so that both of them open up at the same time, so your driver and passenger can get in together. So that's the way I've had it for a long time. I think I set that up when it was new, as a matter of fact. So, and then if you want to turn the system off, take the ignition key out of the ignition, press the door on the transmitter until the door locks, cycle about 2 seconds, and then you turn the system back on, you just repeat the steps. So to check the system is off, you turn on the ignition, the passive keyless entry light on the driver's information center should not come on. And if the light does come on for a second or two, then the PKE system is still on. You can also check whether the system is on or off by closing the door and moving away from the vehicle with the keys and the transmitter. If the door is locked, the system is on. If you're working around your vehicle and keeping your keys with you, you might want to turn the PKE system off. See, it actually tells you. If you don't, it's annoying as heck. If you don't, the transmitter will keep locking and unlocking your doors. The other thing it gives you a good example of here in the service manual is it actually tells you what your range is. Now, on the coupes, that big antenna I was telling you about, the rectangular shaped one, is in the driver's side door, and there's one in the rear compartment. On the convertibles, there's one in each door. Now, the reason they do that in convertibles is the speakers are in the back on the rear deck there, so that antenna won't fit between them, and I think it would actually cause interference. So the transmitter range depends on your vehicle and where you're standing. The coupe has an antenna in the driver's door and one in the rear area. Convertible has one antenna in each door. The antennas do not require any maintenance. Range also depends on how you hold the transmitter. So they tell you straight up for best performance when you come, God, I gotta get a new case. When you come near your vehicle, hold the transmitter straight up and down so the keys hang down like this. And if the range seems to be decreasing, check the battery in the transmitter. Range will decrease if the battery is low. It will also decrease if more than one transmitter is in the area, because what it does, it confuses the system and it doesn't know which one to work with. So don't put the transmitter in a metal container because the transmitter won't work either. So just, you know, simple little things. Now, the other thing I'll go through, and I know there's tons of videos probably out there. I don't know if there's tons of them, but I know there's got to be videos describing how to make this system work. So the system itself can be the new transmitters, when you get them, have to actually be programmed to the car. So when you program them to the car, it's a simple I should say, but it's kind of like the same kind of diagnostics you use on a lot of these mid-90s cars. So you're going to move the transmitters out of range of the car. You turn the ignition key on. You push the trip odometer on the driver information center twice. Within 5 seconds, you press and hold the fuel info until the passive keyless entry light comes on. Then you turn the ignition off, but leave the key in the ignition. The passive keyless entry light should begin to flash to show the system is in programming mode. Bring one transmitter into range, the light will stop flashing and stay on to show the code is stored. Move the transmitter out of range, the light should start flashing again. Repeat steps 6 and 7 with each additional transmitter. You can program up to 3 transmitters per car, but most people don't need 3 of them. The programming mode will shut off if you don't program any transmitters for 2 minutes. You take the key out of the ignition or turn the ignition on, you have programmed 3 transmitters. Now the other thing about these was that, I'm trying to remember if I forgot something about this, because like I said, guys, I've been dealing with these for 20 plus years, and even I go back to this to reference how to do these transmitters, because they get kind of confusing. Yeah, exactly. So what it basically tells you here too is that it's the new transmitters are also coded to prevent another transmitter from unlocking the vehicle. So if you buy a new transmitter, right, it's going to be not coded to that vehicle, and it won't work until you follow these programming procedures. Now, I've seen on eBay a couple vendors are offering new PKE remotes for these if you don't have them, because frankly, original ones are very hard to find. And the other thing too is that this transmitter is specifically for a coupe. This is not for a convertible because it's got that rear hatch there. The convertible transmitter's PKE is just one single button, and it's got the convertible insignia on it versus the coupe. So that's one thing to look at if you've got a convertible. So trying to think if I missed anything. And like I said, this is why I've left this service manual out so you guys could see what I'm doing here. But I'm pretty sure that's all I wanted to talk to about this system. If you've got any questions about it, obviously leave me a note in the comments below. Let me know what you think. You know, this is, like I said, this is one of those curiosity things that hardly anybody notices, because these have just become lost to time. And you know, a lot of guys end up putting aftermarket alarms on their later C4 Corvettes, and honestly, they're not nearly as good as these original systems. So that's going to wrap things up for me today. I'll be back next week with some more stuff. Let me know what you guys are thinking, and we'll see you guys then. All right, guys, thanks.